Today I will show you how to install Active Directory on a Windows Server 2025, some network and DNS settings, and then we will hook up a Windows 11 machine to the domain. Have you tried turning it off and on again? Hello, so today I will show you how to install a local domain in your home lab or your small company. And this is going to be installing of Active Directory domain services, and with it we will also install a DNS server and then hook up this Windows 11 machine into the domain and make an account for it. So first thing we will do is updating the OSS. This Windows 11 is up to date, and the hostname is Win11VM. And it's on the 10.0.0 subnet, so it should be on the same subnet as my Windows Server, which is this machine. So it's a Windows Server 2025 Standard Evaluation Edition, and I have another video if you need a evaluation Windows Server to lab with. You can check that one out. So this server has a generic name. After the installation, it is on the same subnet, but we are going to rename it. So we go to settings, we can go to about, and here top right you can see it says rename this PC. So we can rename it to, for example, lab-dc1, and it's a common name. DC for the AD server and domain controller, which is the DC, what it stands for. And you can put the 1 if you plan to maybe have some more domain controllers in your environment. So lab-dc1 is a good name for this server indeed. I will press next, and yeah, it will prompt us to restart the machine after this, because later on when we install and config the roles, it can get a bit messed up if we have the wrong name. So I will actually restart now and see you after the machine has restarted. Okay, so the machine has now restarted. So I will log back in with my account, and it should now be renamed to lab-dc1. We will also change the IP address on this server and make sure it's fully updated. So we can go and see if it's fully updated. Windows Update, check for updates. And I've recently updated this server, so it should be fairly up to date. So a green check mark, everything is good. The last thing we are going to do is to set this server on a static IP address. So we are going into the network and internet settings. Let's press the Ethernet, and here we can see that we actually have IP assignment set to DHCP, so that's no good for a domain controller. So we press edit here, set it to manual IPv4, and here, depending on your IP structure, you will set it to a free static IP that you know is available for the server. So for example, I will set mine to 7, why not? The subnet mask also depends on your IT infrastructure, and I will have my ordinary class C. And here you will point to your default gateway. That can be your virtual switch, your firewall, your router. So I will point to my virtual switch in this case, and prefer DNS. For now it can be the same as the gateway. So we will hit save here to set the static IP, and we will look bottom right to see that we still have internet connectivity. So yeah, that's all good. That was the hostname, IP address, and Windows updates, and those are the most basic things that we need to do to prepare the server. I can refresh my BG info, so it will actually correspond the changes we made. So I will do that for the BG info. Here we press OK, and we can now see lab-dc1 and the new IP address for the server. Okay, so it's now time to actually install the role. So we will hit Start menu, Server Manager. And this could take a bit to load because it's checking a lot of the different services that the server is now running, and it's collecting some data. But here we can press number 2, add roles and features. So we can see it says Server Manager is still collecting some inventory data, but usually after things pop up here, you can just press the OK button and then number 2 again for add roles. We will have this wizard, and we will actually look here because it says before you continue, verify the following task has been completed, and actually gives you some good pointers here that the administrative account has a strong password, and when we promote this to a domain controller, all the local users in this server will actually be converted to domain users, so there won't be any local users at all here. So we can actually check that if we go into the computer management, and here we have local user and groups, and this whole category will just be gone when we have made a domain and domain controller out of this server. So here we have some users, Timmy, TSS, and this one will be converted. So that's good to know. And it also says network settings, set and static IP address. We did that, and of course the most current security updates from Windows updates are installed, and we also did that. So we can actually hit next. Here we get the choice to do a role-based installation or a remote desktop installation, and we are going to do a role-based installation, so we hit next. Here we select if we have multiple different servers in our environment, but this is gonna list just this local server here, lab DC1 10.007, so this is indeed the one we are going to make a domain controller of, so we press next. And for the role itself, it's going to be Active Directory Domain Services. We check that one, and we can also include the management tools. So add features. You could, if you wanted some more roles, for example DHCP server or a web server on this domain controller, but it's best practice to have it as clean as possible, so I wouldn't do that. The DNS server we are actually going to get bundled because this is going to be the first and the only DNS server in this environment, so it has to be at least one, and we are going to make this server a DNS server. We actually don't have to press it right here, so we click next. No other features are going to be installed, so next. And here is a brief summary that the Active Directory Domain Services is about, managing users, computers and devices in the network. So we can just press next here. And here it will say that it will actually, you can check if you want to restart it automatically. We won't do that. And it's a bit of a confirmation of all the stuff it's going to install. So let's go about and install it. This will be a bit of a progress bar. I will get back to you when it's done. So no input is needed here. Alright, so the installation went pretty good. You can see here that the feature installation is complete. The bar is all the way 100%, but it says configuration is required. Installation succeeded on lab DC1. So now we actually need to do a promotion to a domain controller, and we can do that by clicking this link in this window here. We can also close it if you want to do it later on, but I would suggest doing it right away so it doesn't get stuck in this state. So here we can see an exclamation mark, notifications, so you can also press here to promote it to a domain controller. So let's do that. The first screen, it asks us if we want to add this domain controller to an existing domain. That's not the case, because we want to do a completely new, what is called a forest. So that is actually below a domain, the very root level of a domain and forest. So we will do a forest. And the root domain here, for example, if you have an external domain that is called company.com, for example, you can have internal.company.com, or if you are just testing out, you can have something with .test or .lab. So I will actually do ad.lab and hit next. And here we will get some domain controller options, so you can select both the forest level and the domain level. And this is usually if you have several domain controllers in your forest, you want them to be on the same level. And you can only select this for 2016 and 2025 in this case. So it's if you have some compatibility issues with the latest domain level, forest level, you can go with the later ones also, but here in this lab I will have them on 2025. And here we can also see that indeed we can install a domain name system server at the same time, so we can check this mark here instead. The next one is for your restore mode password. So for example, if something happens with your AD and you get to safe restore mode, you will have to put in your DSRM password. So hopefully you don't have to do that, but we need a password in the case. So I will put in the password here. So write it down and hopefully you don't have to use it. Hit next. And here we get a bit of a warning that a delegation for this DNS server couldn't be created. And this is because this is the first and the only DNS server and the DNS zone. So it's not surprisingly that we can't make a DNS server or delegation, for example. So we can ignore this warning for now, and it's also going to warn about this in the future, but that is completely normal, so you can just ignore it and hit next. And here we will wait until it will fill in automatically a NetBIOS name. And this is a bit of an older protocol how to communicate in the domain. So for us it will be just AD, and that is okay, so we hit next. And we can also change the different paths to database log files and sysvol. If you want to do that, you just hit the buttons here, and if you want to put it on another place, but I will go with next. And you will get a bit of a review on what will actually be configured here. So we will have a DNS server, no delegations, and the forest and domain level will be 2025, which is the latest. When we hit next now, it will go through all the prerequisites, so it actually have the possibility to make this installation as we want. And here once again we will see about the DNS delegation that we can ignore, but in the end there is a green check mark that says all prerequisites are checks passed successfully. Click install to begin. So I will click install. No input is needed, so see you after this progress bar. Okay, so the promotion was successful, and after the lab DC1 becomes a domain controller, we will actually get signed out automatically. So I got signed out, then it was a bit of application settings that they were adjusting all the settings for the computer. And it took maybe 6-7 minutes for it to fully load back again until this login screen. So I will log in again. And now we will not log in with this local account because it's actually not there. Instead we will go to other user, and here we can see sign in to AD, and I will use my username here instead for my admin account. And this account indeed now should be converted to a domain account. Something happened with the resolution of the screen also, so let me change that back to normal, not 768. There we go. Okay, so now it's time to actually do the DNS settings for this environment. So the first thing we're going to do is go to the network settings, bottom right, then Ethernet. And the best practice is to go and edit these DNS settings, and the preferred DNS should not be the loopback address like this. Instead we go with 10.0.0.7, which is the IP address of this server. For the alternate DNS, if we had multiple DNS server or domain controllers, we could put in the secondary DNS server in here. We should not put in the external DNS like Google or Cloudflare here directly in the DNS settings, and not the loopback either. If we don't have any other DNS servers here in our internal system, in our internal domain, we could just leave this blank. So only the IP address of the server itself. Hit save. After that, we will press on the start menu, go to DNS. We will open DNS management. So here is the DNS server itself, and it will create the zones automatically, so that's not something you have to do by yourself. I can show you how to put in a record also. It is quite fast, so we go to forward lookup zone, and here is our new zone. And here we can see it only has one record actually, and that is for the lab DC1. This server corresponds to this IP address, 10.0.0.7. So yeah, that is the main purpose of DNS. It's like a old telephone book. It associates DNS names with IP addresses. So for example, you might plan to install a new web server, then you just right click here and we will make a new host for it, and it could be web 1 and 10.0.0.11 maybe. After that you just press add host, and that DNS name is now in here. But what we want to do is to actually have some forwarders. So that is if the DNS name you are looking for could not be resolved internally. So it will check internally first, and if it's not resolved internally, you will point to the DNS forwarders. So we highlight lab DC1 here, and here we can see the forwarders. We go edit. I will delete this one so we have it completely blank. And here I can, for example, go with Google one. And also, depending on your infrastructure, you could put in your DNS, your IP address on your gateway. So I will do that. And you can go up and down. So if you want this to be first, you just do like that. So now we have internal lookups, firewall and gateway lookups, and if we can't find it, we will go with the DNS.google.com. And that is okay. Now it's time to create an account for our Windows 11 machine to log in. And if we actually go here to computer management, we can see that we talked about earlier that there is no local users or groups left here under the computer management, so they are actually gone. Where we need to go instead is the Active Directory, users and computers. So if we open up this one, here is our new forest or domain. And if we expand this one, we can see a lot of predefined containers where we, for example, here under users has a lot of different default user groups. And we should also have our local accounts converted to domain accounts. So these are the domain accounts that got converted, Timmy and TSS. Best practice is to organize your users in what's called organizational units. So for example, it could be HR, IT, or if you want to divide them in maybe different locations. So we will do new organizational unit, and for this lab we can just make up we can go with HR, that's okay. So now we get a new container here. That's good because maybe you want different policies for different branches in your organization, and it's also easier to manage the users when they are at the right place. So here in HR we can just right click and do new, and we can do user. So here we can go with, for example, Tim Smith, and you can decide the actual account name. So I will just go with tim.smith, so it's easy to remember. We go with next. I will put in a password. And I will have it so it can't be changed and it never expires. And hit finish. So now we have an account for Tim Smith at HR. And let's go to the Windows 11 machine. And we are now on the Windows 11 machine, and let's start by hooking this machine up to the actual domain. So what we need to do is go to the settings, hit up systems, about. And this is also a good time if you want to have some more organization on the actual machine itself. This one is called Win11 VM. It will be fine for now, but otherwise you can rename it to whatever you want. And here I will press domain or workgroup. Then I will press change. And here we will swap from workgroup to domain, and I will put in the domain name that we did. This machine won't find this domain right now if I press OK here, and that is because it can't resolve AD.lab. It's looking towards the DNS server to do this lookup, and it's the wrong one, so we need to point towards the new DNS server that we set up in the network settings before it can actually find it. So once again, network and internet settings, Ethernet, and here for the DNS we are going to point to a manual IPv4 address that is the DNS server we just set up. So it will use this one if our DNS for somewhat reason is offline, the AD is down. We can put in, for example, a Cloudflare DNS, or we actually did the Google one in the last example, so it can still maybe access the internet if we're lucky. Let's hope that our domain controller doesn't go down, then we have some bigger problems probably. Alright, now that we have the DNS server solved, if we now try to connect to the AD.lab domain, we can see that it actually finds it. And now it will ask for an account with permission to join the domain. So this is not the user account that we just made. This is a domain admin account that is going to add us to the domain, add this computer to the domain. So this will be an admin account you fill in here, so it can be a bit confusing, but fill in the admin account, press OK. And now it says welcome to AD.lab domain. It asks us to restart the computer, so I will do that. It will go quite fast, so let's restart it. As it's a VM in my VM Workstation Pro, it will go quite fast. It doesn't have a lot of RAM, it's only 4 GB, but it still won't take that long time. So now we have rebooted it. And yeah, we won't log in with this local account anymore. We will go with a domain account. For the AD account we did Tim Smith and the password. And it will prepare the desktop environment for Tim. It will make the usual suspects, the document, the download, all the different type of folders. And we are now actually logged in, Tim Smith. So that should actually be it. But we can do some confirmation that everything works out fine. We can open up CMD. And if we do who am I, we can indeed see that we are connected to AD as Tim Smith. And if we do an NS lookup, for example on the Web1 server, we can see that Web1 that we made a DNS entry for .ad.lab actually corresponds to this IP, so that's good. Internal domain lookups are resolving fine. And if we do an external lookup, for example Disney.com, we can see that our DNS server pulls up the record for Disney.com on this address without any trouble at all. So there you have it. We have installed the Active Directory domain, promoted it to the main controller and hooked up this machine and account. If you learned something, please leave a like and yeah, subscribe to the channel. Bye bye.